First and foremost, can everyone hear me? Yeah. In the way back.
Yeah.
In the way back, can people hear me? Okay. Well, I have to start, as an employee of the United States government and the Library of Congress, I have to start with a disclaimer. So, everything I am about to say is my personal opinion and in no way reflects my employer, the Library of Congress. There, that's out of the way. Now, I would like to submit the following remarks as a contribution to Michael Chyet di Konferansa's call to empower Kurdish society by reinforcing internal collaboration. Regarding the question of whether to choose Kurmanji or Sorani, or to create a hybrid of the two, it has always been clear to me that there is a third option. Kurmanji and Sorani should be treated equally. It pains me to see Kurds who are literate in other languages but who have not learned the Kurdish orthography, either in Latin or Arabic script. I envision teaching these to all Kurdish children as a national treasure and as a part of their Kurdish identity. I was pleasantly surprised to discover a few years ago that Kurdsat, the TV channel of the PUK, was using the Latin orthography in its broadcasts, including cha and sa, cha and sha. The power of television to familiarize people with things they are initially unfamiliar with should not be underestimated. I envision an educational system in which all Kurdish children throughout Kurdistan are educated equally in both Kurmanji and Sorani, in both Arabic and Latin orthographies. Notice that I use the word orthography rather than alphabet. There is a simple one-to-one correspondence between the Latin and Arabic orthographies, and both work equally well for both Kurmanji and Sorani. I have drawn up a chart for the Library of Congress which shows the correspondences between those orthographies, including the Cyrillic orthography, and that also appears at the beginning of my dictionary. The Kurdish educational program that I speak of would be part of a larger process engendering mutual tolerance and acceptance of difference in general. Mutual respect for each other's dialect and genuine curiosity about how that other dialect differs from our own should be part and parcel of such a program. Let us follow in the footsteps of Hajar Abdurrahman Sharafkandi, a Sorani poet from Mukrian in Iranian Kurdistan, in Rojhalai. During his career, he produced important editions of the works of the Kurmanji classical poets, Faqih Tehran, Melay Jaziri, and Ahmed Khani. Imagine a generation of young people with a thorough knowledge of both Kurmanji and Sorani. There is no need for a hybrid of the two. This might naturally occur without any interference from politicians untrained in linguistic matters. One can see it already happening. For example, Sorani words like chapemeni, meaning the press, and deverê, to express, have now become common in Kurmanji. This was not true as recently as the 1980s. By the same token, the Kurmanji words heval, friend or comrade, dever, region, and bizav, political movement or effort, all three with a v sound, are now used in Sorani. History has brought the two dialects into contact with each other. Thanks to Kurdish television, radio, and the internet, there's now constant exposure to dialects and to words previously unknown to large segments of the population. Seeing Kurmanji and Sorani as equal partners is not merely a linguistic matter. It is also a social matter. During the Mandate period in Iraq, 1919 to 1958, The British insisted that Sorani be the only Kurdish dialect taught in Kurdish schools, which engendered a fair amount of resentment among Kurmanji speakers. Choosing one dialect over another, or to put it differently, imposing one dialect on a population which speaks another, is guaranteed to cause dissent. An awareness of attempts to divide the Kurds is an important motivation for inculcating in Kurdish children everywhere a feeling of national cohesion. The language issue can be a very dangerous weapon, an instrument for divisiveness in the wrong hands. Although I am not a proponent of combining Kurmanji and Sorani into one hybrid language, there are ways that the two dialects can be brought closer together. This may be considered an important step in nation building, as well as a pedagogical issue in teaching Kurdish, both to native speakers and to foreigners. Okay, here we go with the point. In situations where one dialect presents multiple forms to choose from, the forms that exist in the other dialect should be considered in order to calibrate the dialects, that is, to bring them closer. An example from the field of morphology. The indicative mood of the present tense of Kurmanji verbs features a prefix de, for example, debînîm, I see, defrosham, I sell. The Sorani counterpart displays variation. In Mukriyan and in Arbil, the prefix is de, for example, debînîm or defrosham, whereas in Suleymaniya and Kirkuk and in Sina, it is ebînîm and defrosham. Over the past 20 years, there has been a tendency in written Sorani to prefer forms with de to those with even among writers from Suleymaniya, whose dialect serves as the basis of written Sorani. By preferring Sorani de over mutual intelligibility between Sorani, e.g. debînîm, and Kurmanji with debînîm has been enhanced. In Kurmanji, compound verbs, that is, verbs with a prefix, such as ru, pil, da, wer, etc., display variation. For example, I sit can be rudenim or dirunim. In other words, the indicative prefix de either comes between the preverb and the root of the verb, for example, rudinim, or as the first element before the preverb, for example, dirunim. Native speakers will defend whichever form they use as the only correct form. In Sorani, there is only one option. The indicative prefix de comes between the preverb and the root. For example, da denisham. By taking the Sorani form into account, I propose standardizing the construction that is shared by Kurmanji and Sorani. Hence, Kurmanji rudinim, werdegrim, hildegrim, as opposed to dirunim, dewerdegrim, dehildegrim. The corresponding Sorani forms are dadenishim, werdegrim, and hildegrim. In the realm of lexicology, consider Kurdish words for the broom. In Sorani, the word gesik or gisik is quite widespread. In Kurmanji, there is a great deal of regional variation, with borrowings from Arabic, melkes from Arabic miknasa, Aramaic, kinosha, Armenian avlek, as well as siqavel, which is a large broom for sweeping out a barn, from Armenian avel, as well as bermalk, shijing, sivnik, sizik, jarif, sirge, and gezi, among others. Kurmanji gezi and Sorani gesik are clearly cognate, and I would argue that mutual intelligibility would be enhanced by designating gezi as the standard term for broom in Kurmanji, since it has a close Sorani equivalent. Moreover, the Zaza word is gezi, and the Gurani word is gizi. To take another example, let us consider the Kurdish equivalent of to say. In Kurmanji, the infinitive is gotin. In Sorani, there are multiple forms of the infinitive. Wutin in Slimani and Kirkuk, Kutin in Mukrian, and Gotin in Arbil, Hawliya. By choosing Gotin as the standard or preferred form, we are taking one small step toward unifying Kurmanji and Sorani. I've discussed the present stem of this verb in an earlier paper. The next example, once again in the realm of morphology, will show that it is not always as simple as choosing the one form among many, which agrees with the single form in the other dialect. Let us consider the past participle. In Kurmanji, the past participle is formed from the infinitive, for example, ditin, to see, dan, to give, by removing the in ending. Then you're left with dit and da, and replacing it with e for consonant stems and yi for vowel stems. So that would give you dt, seen, and dai, given. In Sorani, there are three regional variants. In Hawliya and Rawanduz, near the dialect boundary between Kurmanji and Sorani, the past participle is formed as in Kurmanji, dt and dai. In Slemaniya, Kirkuk, and in Mukrian, the ending is u after a consonant and wa after a vowel. So ditu, dao. In Sina, Sanandaj, and Warmawa, the ending is id after consonants and r after vowels. So ditil, dav. So you see the three variants here. The form in id is transitional to southern Kurmanji, Kalhuri, also, and it is widely known. It is not widely known outside of those areas. The form in E is perceived by most cultivated Sorani speakers as backward. Imposing it on the robust written tradition represented by the forms Huardu and Dao might cause just the sort of divisive backlash that we are seeking to avoid. The dialect of Hawliya and the dialect of Mukrian agree on many points. Both form the present indicative with the prefix de rather than e. Both preserve the oblique case and two genders for nouns. Both lack the demonstrative m, using only l. However, when it comes to the past participle, Mukrian shares with Slemani and Kirkuk the forms in u and wa. These regions collectively constitute the majority of Sorani speakers, in addition to reflecting the established written standard already in use. Something that is thriving should not be undermined, or as we say in English, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. When the present tense of a verb is from a different root from that of the infinitive, we have what is called a suppletive form. Some people might say suppletive. To illustrate this, let us look at the verb ditin. In both Kurmanji and Sorani, the present tense is from the suppletive root bin, debinum, debinum Kurmanji, debinum in Sorani. In addition, both Zaza and Gorani exhibit reflexes of both the dit root and the bin root. Zaza has the infinitive diaish with the present stem vin, vineno. Gorani has the infinitive da with the present stem win. Persian also manifests both roots. Infinitive didan, present tense mi binan. In many Sorani dialects, binin can be heard alongside ditin as the infinitive, with a past tense binin rather than ditin. Because ditin is so widespread and because binin is not in use in Kurmanji or elsewhere, clearly ditin should be favored as the standard form. All right, I'm going to skip to... where am I going to skip to? So, on the question of standardization, it will not surprise me to hear protests from native speakers who are protective of their regional dialect forms. I have encountered disagreement from a native speaker from Suleymaniya regarding the preference of ditin over binin, as well as comments from Têbînî speakers who think that forms like dirunum are right and those like rudenum are wrong. My argumentation regarding the past participle endings, preserving Kurmanji e and Sorani u, suggests that this is not so simple a problem that a computer could be programmed to solve it. The ideas that I am presenting in this paper have developed in response to such reactions and are designed to present linguistically valid reasons for preferring a particular form over others. People can argue and squabble with each other, but when the facts show that one dialect exhibits multiformity, while the other dialect has a single form, there is no person to argue with about this. The methodology I am proposing can go a long way towards providing solutions for standardizing Kurmanji and Sorani by comparing them with each other, and after looking into the other Kurdistani languages and dialects, choosing one of the existing forms with an eye to bringing the two dialects in line with one another. This may look fine on paper, but will the Kurds themselves find these suggestions palatable, and will they actually adopt them? Up till now, the possibility of a Kurdish state has been a dream, so no one has had to wrestle with the real-life issues of what running an independent state would entail, at least not from a linguistic perspective. When I get an earful about how the dialect of this village or that town is the purest Kurdish dialect on earth, my response is, do you want to establish an independent village or an independent state? In the standardized language to be used by millions of people in a sovereign state, it is not possible for the idiosyncrasies of every village dialect to be included. That being said, local dialects are nevertheless the hallmark of a living language. If my suggestion were adopted, I would encourage people in Slemani and Kirkuk to continue using Witten and Binin in their spoken language, and those in Mukliyan to keep on saying Kutin and Ditin. However, in formal speech and writing, I would suggest using the forms Gotin and Ditin. Likewise, the word for broom. I just got a little bit left here, if you will allow me. In this brief discourse, I hope I have given you a taste of what is involved in standardizing a language. Several factors must be taken into account: the linguistic data of a wide number of dialects and sociolinguistic information, as well as a realistic expectation of what forms would be acceptable to their intended users. Thank you.
Thank you.